And this is Wanza's book, which is going to be for sale after her presentation. Wanza Lett-Brewington is an author, poet, award-winning playwright, executive coach, leadership, and mindfulness consultant. She enjoys spending time with her loved ones, reading, writing poetry, watching Star Wars and Star Trek movies, and playing with her dog, Coco. Wanza obtained her bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Massachusetts Amherst in diversity education in organizations and social justice education, respectively. She is the owner of Mayadan Consulting Associates, LLC, where she works as an executive leadership consultant. Her areas of expertise include executive leadership, equity, inclusion, diversity, organizational development, mindfulness, etiquette, and belonging. And here she is going to present her new book, which I will let her tell you all about. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming out. This is just so awesome. This is my first book signing, and so I'm happy to have it here in Greenfield with so many happy faces that know me and know the work that I do, and so forth. I'm just thrilled with this. So, what I'm hoping to do is, I'll read some stuff and then we'll maybe have some question and answer bit, and then I can read a little bit more, and then we can, if you hadn't picked up a book yet, you can still pick up the book, and so forth. So, a little bit about my book. It's called Reflections and Tears, Voices of My People. And what that means for me is that with the work that I do as a consultant, but then also as an activist and as an educator and so forth, I've had the joy of helping people and so forth, and the joy of being there when folks are in times of crisis and moving folks through that and so forth. And I wanted to be able to capture that in positive ways, because oftentimes we only come together for funerals or those kinds of things. I'm like, no, let's capture life through poetry, because folks can appreciate poetry versus a lecture, that type of thing, which is what I would usually do in the classroom. So this is poetry that I've written probably over the last 5 years, and as I was writing it, it's interesting to look back at my journals and so forth. From the moment that I started the first couple of ones in the border, it actually had the name of this book from 5 years ago, even though I wasn't sure when I would write the book. And everything, so it's like it was still with me and so forth. And so yeah, so the book itself, as it says here, it embodies the spirit of unity through our heart, our mind, our body, and our spirit. And so there's those 4 sections that are in the book there. And so with that, we'll talk about how the environment connects to our body, how it connects to our mind, how it connects to our spirit, and how we connect together, and so forth. And that's what I wanted to talk about and so forth, and put me in the vein of like Maya Angelou, how she writes poetry, and we can see it, we can feel it, and so forth. And so that's how my poetry is. It's about personal experiences. So, to start off with, my mother, both of my mothers, I was blessed to have 2 great mothers. I have my biological mother and my stepmother in my life. Yeah. So I'll talk about my stepmother a little bit later, but my mom, towards the last part of her life, she had COPD, and it was pulmonary disorder and so forth. And what folks don't tell you with those kind of things, because you see the commercial on there, remember the commercial that used to be out with the elephant stepping on somebody, it's like, okay, there's that, but you don't have the reality of how it really impacts the person, as far as them not being able to breathe and things like that, but also with that comes dementia. And depending upon how long they have it, it can turn, dementia can turn to also having Alzheimer's and so forth. And that's what happened to her for the last 6 months of her life. And because I didn't know that at first, it was surprising. It was really, really surprising of like, why doesn't she know who I am? That kind of thing. Like you see that in the movies and so forth. But to feel it and to know it and to not break down, in that moment, like, my mom doesn't even know who I am, but know that it's part of the disease, of it and so forth. But again, I wanted to capture the happy side of some of those phases. Or the upside, I should say, not necessarily happy. So the very first poem in the book is called Good Morning. And so it's a poem in honor of Alzheimer's Awareness Day. I was asked to write this like 3 years ago. The Alzheimer's Association wanted poetry and so forth, and so I wrote this. So, good morning, my love. It's great to see you. You are my world, my essence, my truth. Together we have memories that extend a lifetime. Memories of picnics with your favorite mac and cheese, of church with you singing in the choir. Church, you singing in the choir. Beautiful, beautifully singing songs. You sing? My daughter, beautiful daughter, you sing. That's so nice. My daughter sings. Next. Good morning, my love. It's nice to see you. You should come to see me more often. Sadness and nights of madness. Mornings of glory, of refreshed thoughts. Refreshed thoughts. Good morning. You look familiar. I wonder if you know where I am. Let me tell you about my home. Days go by. The good of the morning begins to fade each day. Memories are slowly yet methodically trapped within mind and body. Several mournful months go by. Good morning, my love. It's great to see you. How was high school today? You smile and you just say, good morning. Yeah, it's okay. The next one is written because it's one of my fondest memories of when I was 5 years old. My dad got remarried. My stepmother is awesome and so forth. But one of the memories that she often brings up, because I was raised between Arizona and Florida, so primarily in Arizona, but then going to Florida, you know, the weather is different. Arizona is very, very dry. Florida rains a lot. So there's this memory that she used to share of me when I was little, where I put my little hands on the mirror and on the window and was looking out and was mesmerized by the rain. Because it does not rain that much in Phoenix except for monsoon season. So she was tickled and she's like, this little girl doesn't even know anything about rain. It was so cool. And it stuck with me with that of like, we can see the world sometimes through the eyes of children. You know, and it gives us different perspective and appreciation. Because she said I was just mesmerized and just stayed there. So, raindrops, drop, drop, drops calming me, like my feelings for you, feelings for your essence, your touch, your breath. Breathe life. Raindrops, drop, drop, drop. Your beautifully serene drops give me my memories of happiness and my smile. Raindrops, drop, drop, drip, drip. As the sky clears, I wait and wonder for the rain and the drops to come once more. Often in life we have people that come to us that are struggling through things, and we give advice, and you know, they'll take it and so forth. And then sometimes when you're the person receiving the advice, you're not sure about it. But you just know, like, okay, whatever it is, I just can't go back to whatever I was before. And so that's what this one is. Oh, I can't go back. I cannot go back. I cannot go back. My life matters too much. You cannot erase me or dismiss me to meet your requirements or your clocks. I will not do this anymore. I have left the ivory walls, the pillars of that plantation that were built to keep me in. I am stifled no more. I can stand now. I can see through the woven nets. No longer will I compromise myself, because I can't go back. Sometimes sometimes we do stuff and we aren't sure why we're doing it. We're just going through the motion and so forth. But we know that getting up, doing stuff, and being your own essence is very, very important. So to that one, I can't go back. But sometimes when you're thinking about it, it can be heavy. And so that's what this one is. It's like, okay, let me just work through this. It's called Time Stopped. It's very, very short. I woke up one day, the flowers were all gone. I could not breathe. Time had stopped, but I didn't know why. Part of what I do, as I said in my bio, is that I'm a leadership consultant or a personal consultant, coach, and so forth. And so sometimes folks just aren't sure what to do, and they need that rally cry to get out of the box, to get out of the funk, and so forth. And so this poem was written for that, because there was a lot of folks that I knew that were trapped by various different things, and I just wanted to tell them, okay, you just need to rise up. You just need to rise up. It'll be okay. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be okay. So this is called Rise Up. What do you do when you hate yourself? Rise up. What do you do when you hate your own very essence? Rise up. When you hate looking at yourself in the mirror, even to brush your teeth or your hair, rise up. What do you do when you can't seem to care about what clothes you put on each day? You know that it matters because if you don't play the part and put something on, folks won't think that you're okay. Someone will ask questions you don't want to or can't seem to answer. Rise up. What do you do when you envy a person who has committed suicide? Rise up. What do you do when the only thing keeping you alive is your child and you don't want to leave them alone? Rise up. What do you do when you don't believe in yourself? Rise up. What do you do when you don't want to leave your mother or your parents alone because they're too old? Rise up. Rise up knowing that each day you make a difference. Rise up knowing that each day there are people in your life who know that you are remarkable. Rise up knowing that your kids and many, many other people in your life will confirm to you that you are loved. And rise up knowing that you are worthy. Rise up. So I'll read this one and then we'll take a break. Just because I know it's going to take a lot out of me. So I think the majority of you all knew my husband, Dwayne. So the last few years of his life, we spent a lot of time in the hospital, with him on and off, with him there, and so forth. And oftentimes in the hospital, when you're the person visiting, the sounds that you hear are that clock on the wall, it's ticking, and so forth, and the machines. And that's it, because you're just in that thought, and so forth. And so I wrote this one time when somebody walked in and said, "It's just so quiet in here." And I'm like, no, it's very noisy in here to me. But I had to describe why, and so forth. So this is called tick-tock. Tick-tock, the clock rocks, weaves, and chimes. Keeps us on track with the time and the place. Tick-tock, keep going. We can get trapped by that clock, focusing us to be somewhere or something we do not want to be, or who we would usually not do what we usually not do, because we're running out of time. Tick-tock runs the clock, running our mind, running out of time. Time keeps us on track, spinning and spinning. Tick-tock blows the clock. What is it that they say? If you're on time, you're late. Now you're late and it still won't stop. Keep going, got to keep going. Tick-tock goes the clock. The clock won't stop. The choices you need to make are slipping away. The life you want to have will go astray. claim it, pull back, or else you need to make it yours. Don't stop. Tick-tock goes the clock. It will keep beating, keep ticking away each day. Tick-tock. Those are from the first two sections of the book. I didn't know if folks wanted to ask questions or anything.
Wanza, when you write a poem, are you consciously thinking, I'm gonna sit down and write a poem? Or are you just sitting down and all of a sudden you find yourself writing a poem? I mean, is it, or is it a combination of the two?
It's a combination of the two, but it's more of like in that moment, I have to write it down because it'll be gone, totally gone, and all I remember is I had a great idea, and that's so annoying, so annoying. So I always carry some sort of paper and pencil with me and so forth because something will be happening, and I'll need to write it down, that type of thing. So it doesn't go away, and like I've done and do writing workshops and so forth, and it can come that way too. But it helps for those kind of sessions for me if I've already worked on something versus creating an original something. Okay, I create usually by myself, like something will have happened, or I will have talked to somebody, or it's the end of the day and so forth, and it's like, okay, I gotta write this down. That kind of thing, but yeah, I can't completely just spontaneously write something at a workshop type of thing.
So most of the pieces that are in this book then are things that something was happening that really, really galvanized your spirit. And it's like with most of us, we just, we might laugh at whatever was happening, or we might cry or whatever, but we don't get a pen out.
Right.
And so it's usually something within the environment that you're experiencing and, okay.
Yeah.
And some of them, I know, because I read ahead a little, were from childhood memories too, so you're bringing that up.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and so some of them also in here are, somebody else's experience that I kept seeing over and over again and I wanted to capture. Yeah, but it's usually after meeting with that person, usually for totally something totally different. Like it could be this type of thing, and then afterwards it's like, ooh, this is capturing whatever, and I have to write. That kind of thing.
When did you write your first poem?
Oh, goodness. The first poem that I called a poem I wanted to share probably was about 7 or 8 years ago. Like I've always written poems, but it's that thing about being self-conscious and so forth. It's like, oh, who's a poet? What is a poet do? I don't know if I can do that. That kind of thing. But I can talk a speech anyway, or do a presentation and so forth. And so I had to think about it, and then through reading about like James Baldwin and Maya Angelou, about their processes and so forth, I was like, oh, that's exactly what they do. They write about life. They write about their life experience. It's like, okay, well then that's what I'm doing. And then, also being reminded about, I don't know if you all have seen the movie Sister Act. It's the one with Whoopi Goldberg and so forth. But remember in that when she tells the girl, like, if you think that you're a writer, if you wake up thinking that you're a writer, then you're a writer. And that's it. And so I had written a few plays, that I had done first, and so I still do those, and won an award for writing a play. And then it just reminded me of like, okay, society will recognize you and so forth, but only if you put it out there. But it's not about that kind of thing. It's about capturing the voice for folks so that they can get something out of it and mean something.
How do you feel about editing your poetry? It's something that I struggle with in myself.
I think that was what, particularly for this book, I think that's what stopped me at first of like, okay, is it good enough? And so that, and then realizing with the poem, it's speaking to somebody, kind of thing. And you think about the poems that we learned when we were little, like hickory dickory dock, mouse ran up the clock. Those kinds of things. Like we know it is like, but it's nonsensical. But here I am as an adult. I remember hickory dickory dock. That kind of thing. And other things like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and those kinds of things, songs and so forth. But you get them and then they'll connect to you and so forth. And like one of the things that was like that was, like I remembered what launched some of my creativity when I was little with my cousins and so forth in the book, but I'm not gonna talk about it this time. But in the book, there's a thing about Miss Mary Mack. And for those that don't know, the clap kind of thing, I thought about doing that, and I was like, adults may or may not want to do the clapping thing in front of everybody else. But, you know, for the section when I was thinking about that connectedness, it kept coming back, and I have little nieces, and they were doing it. And it was funny to see how on the internet, there's different versions than what I had, but you know, that's how stuff is across the country. There will be different versions and so forth. And so then that let me know that, okay, it's okay to edit and then to ask others to edit. I think because, and that helps too. Of like, mostly when I ask other folks to edit, I'm like, does it flow and does it make sense? Like, you know what I'm trying to get at. But other than that, I'm okay. Yeah. Cool.
So I'm interested to hear more about sort of this interconnectivity, and I think you use the word essence a couple times in your pieces, and that really seems to be this sort of self-acceptance and your connectivity with the world around you. And so I'm wondering, for you as an artist, what steered you in that, in this mindfulness direction, and you know, what empowers you?
So the connectedness is like, okay, what's the story that hasn't been told? You know, oftentimes when I do activism work, that's what I remind people. It's like, there's people in the room that we're working with, but who didn't make it? And so forth, and we have to count their stories too. And so with this, that's what I was thinking about, like whose stories aren't necessarily being told so that other folks can hear it, and they can resonate with them, and so forth. And so that's what I wanted to do with that, was to capture that through that, of like, would they ever do that themselves? Like one of the poems in here, I remember particularly as a counselor, I do domestic violence and sexual assault counseling and so forth. And there was this one week where I saw lots of folks that were in either domestic or dating violence kind of situations. And the last few people that I saw, they were like, I'm just fed up with this. And just, you know, so we talk about safety planning and all of that kind of thing. But similar to how you noticed that I say essence a lot, the thing that I heard those folks say a lot was, I'm tired of their sad ass apology. So there's a poem in here about sad ass apology. I'm just tired of it. It's like, here you go again, thinking that I'm just gonna take you back because you apologized. And for folks that do domestic violence work and dating violence work, that is part of the cycle and kind of thing. But it's wonderful as a counselor when folks get to that point, because then they're ready to move on. And so I was like, I have to write about this, because it's like, yep, here you go again. The little sad ass apology about these flowers and think everything's gonna be okay, but not this time. And the end of that, you can keep that. You know, that was, yeah, so I wanted to let folks know, like, you can make it to that point. You literally can make it to that point. And then connected with that, there's a longer poem in here that's called Hidden Reality. And it's about the hidden reality of domestic violence and what does that mean before that point. Because there's a lot of times when folks don't recognize that domestic violence can happen to anybody. And part of the thing of being that person in there, you're not sure where to go, you're not sure what to do. But you're like, uh-oh, they're home. And you have that cycle of, like, you can tell from how they're walking, how they're gonna be feeling, how they're gonna treat you, as far as the domestic violence. And so that's the hidden reality. You know, society doesn't want to see that, you know, that kind of thing.
So these stories really empower you too, as an activist and an artist. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. The first book I wrote was just one poem. It was a long poem that had that same inspiration that I realized I had to write it because there were 3 different times that I had written part of it and it was exactly the same. So I was like, okay, this definitely is something there. And so that book is called Today Is Your Day. And it was written for folks who are going through some sort of crisis and so forth, mostly harassment or domestic violence or so forth, but just letting them know that today is your day, that it's the first day, you know, and know that people are going to accept you, people are going to treat you better, and for those that don't, move them to the side and keep on going. But it was like I literally, the third time I looked at my journals and I was like, I remember this, and I found it, and then I finished it that night, the rest of it, because I was like, I have to tell folks about this, today is your day, it's gonna be different, it's not gonna be easy, like the signs that say it's okay to not be okay, that kind of thing.
Do you share these with your group when you're counseling? Do you actually read your own poetry to them and share, or do you just hand them a copy and say read it? Or how do you work it in with real people the situations you're describing?
Mm-hmm. So before, what I would do was, before returning back here, I was at Old Dominion University, and we used to do a performance that was called the ODU monologues, based on the thing similar to the vagina monologues, where it's literally based on actual people's lives and so forth. And so I would share it that way, because then the quandary about doing school stuff or community stuff is people might know your story, but if you're doing it with a whole entourage of other people, then I could share it, and it's like, I want you to come because there's something in there for you. And that's what I would say, in that kind of way, because in that way, that voice could be heard from them, for them, I should say.
Are you living here now, Melissa?
Mm-hmm. I'd move back.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, we're all happy.
I just have more of a couple comments than questions. Absolutely love the Rise Up piece. That was so powerful. What do you do when you envy someone who committed suicide? That's such a powerful, brave line.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bit about when you can't leave your kids, and how true that is for so many who that's the thing that carries them through.
Yep,
and I love the message of just keep rising up, just keep doing it, through all of that. That was really powerful. And then the TikTok piece just really, it touched my heart, especially with the story that you shared of the origin of it, right? And that sense of, my favorite line was, now you're TikTok, now you're late, and it still won't stop. But the beauty and the poignancy of the piece describing where it came from and that experience of being in that space with Dwayne and knowing that time was marching on and writing about it in that way that doesn't talk about it but brings it to a place that just really is moving and touching. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks for writing that.
Yeah.
And I often remember him fondly those days back in GCC.
Yeah, yeah. All right, got a few more here. I'll move on. Oh, yes, there's this piece in here that's called Common Sense that is funny to me because part of what I do as far as a leadership leader is to help folks to think out of the box. And one of the things in doing that is that you have to recognize that common sense isn't common. It's not. Because folks will say, common sense says, it's like, oh, no. So I tried to capture this because it's like, I want to be able to share this with folks because oftentimes people won't do something because somebody else did something that they say is wrong, but you're like, but did it accomplish the same thing? And then, folks can go, maybe. We all have a friend or, somebody who's like that, and you're like, okay, just move on. So that's what this is. That's what this is. Yeah. All right, so this is called Common Sense, and it's just a passage. Okay. One of many life lessons I've learned from my grandmother is that common sense is not common. It's learned. She would remind me of this anytime I wondered why someone else was doing something in a different manner than what I was doing. So, describing this. Have you ever been at a friend's house and saw them washing dishes the wrong way? Yes. Did they fill the sink with the water first and then put the dishes in? That's that. Right? Or did they wash the dishes one by one in the sink with a wet cloth or sponge and then rinse them? Exactly. Folks are like, it's so wrong. Exactly. So either way, their way is completely wrong. and usually you're gonna tell them. So common sense tells you that they should know better. But wise matriarch that my grandmother was, she would ask the one question: did the dishes get clean? Exactly. And so in life, that's it. In most cases, the answer would be yes. Giving this, their way of washing dishes is not wrong, just simply different. We can often be thrown off balance or unnerved when somebody completes a task in a different process than we do. As with the dishes, their steps for taking and completing a task may be different from yours, but that does not equate to them being wrong. Sort of. I have held on to this wonderful life lesson and applied it countless times in many other places of my life as I work each day to be an avid learner and an architect for diversity and social justice. Yeah. Share that leadership things, and you can see people's faces like, well, no, they were doing it wrong. They're totally wrong. It's like, yeah, we all know. For those of us who've had to wash dishes, you were taught one method, and then, yeah. What is that about? That's what it's about. All right. So in the springtime, I love watching birds and hummingbirds. And then there was just this one day that hummingbird had just shown up, and it was just so beautiful. And it brought back a joy similar to like when I was younger and so forth. And so I thought about it. I was like, what would a child say if they saw a hummingbird? You know, what would they do? So that's this one. Hummingbird, hummingbird, fly, jewel, fly. Beautiful, elegant, lovely music to my eyes. Hummingbird, hummingbird, you buzz by. Hummingbird, hummingbird, race in flight. Hummingbird, hummingbird, out of sight. All right, and then I have just two more. So, given the times that we are right now, sometimes we aren't sure what the news is going to bring the next morning if we turn the TV on. So sometimes I don't turn the TV on because I don't want the news. But when I wrote this was a couple of years ago. There's a longer poem in here that's called 8 minutes, 46 seconds that was written in recognition of George Floyd and so forth. And I literally wrote that the day afterwards. I was trying to get ready for a presentation and so forth, and it just was like, the news kept saying over and over again, 8 minutes, 46 seconds, 8 minutes, 46 seconds. So he was reading that one, how it's another one where time stopped, that type of thing. So that one's a good one. But with this one, coming from that, it's like, okay, what do I want? What do most people want right now? And what we want right now, for the most part, globally, is peace. Okay? And so this is called Peace Be Still. Peace be still. My soul needs you to calm and hold me tight. I need memories of a time when I could be whole and not be terrified of the thought of what happens to me when I walk out the door. The gracious flowing of gentle breezes on my face as I walk fearlessly around my neighborhood and return home safely. I need hope for that future. Solace where someone doesn't need to be reminded that my life or anybody else's matters as much as theirs. And peace to be still. Helping myself and helping others too is to recognize that you're beautiful how you are, because oftentimes society, what the print commercials, the magazines, and all of that will tell us, you need to gain weight here, lose weight there, buy this, buy that, and so forth. And you can take all of this in, and it just becomes overwhelming of like, who am I? Who do I want to be, and so forth. And ultimately, folks want to be themselves, or I would say, you want to be me. You want to be different, you want to be yourself, and so forth. So that's what this last one is. It's called Me. I wait in silence, live in silence, stand in silence. Wait for her to come. She hides. I actually keep her hidden. Hidden, safe from others. Safe from others and me. Now I'm ready for her to come out, to be herself, to be seen, to be heard, to be me. I've missed her. I've missed me.
Wanza, I just want to say that I've read through most of this, and there are just a whole, if you haven't looked at the book yet, there are a whole bunch more of just what you heard. Really good stuff. And there's a couple in there that I mean, I just like that, you know, take your silly ass answer. I mean, you've just got some really good stuff in there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's my pleasure to share. Other questions for Tamara?
Just two of my favorite lines. In the hummingbird poem, lovely music to my eyes. I just love that. And then in Peace Be Still, calm and hold me tight. I look forward to reading the rest of it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, so at this part, we can still have questions. You can buy books, there's a thing on there.
They have a little museum, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, it's called the